Executive Director of the Brownsville Historical Association. And it's so great to see all these familiar faces. I know some of us haven't seen each other in a while, so welcome. The video thanked all of our sponsors individually, but there were some that were left out that I'd like to mention. There were in-kind sponsors. One is the Port of Brownsville. They're providing a boat tour. Aubrey Nielsen will come up next and talk about our programming. So that's one of our last programs. We're grateful to them for that. Model Laundry is also an in-kind sponsor. Rebecca Arguelles mentioned in the video is here. Rebecca, if you could just wave so everybody knows who the artist is. Thank you for the art installation. Juan Velez also donated a piece of artwork you might have seen in the entrance on your way in. It's a Town Resaca watercolor, and that's for sale. Thank you, Juan, for donating that. A board member that couldn't be here tonight, Fernando San Miguel, helped us load up the crates and put them away for us until we pack up the exhibit, so I want to thank him as well. Last but not least, I need to thank staff. We are a staff of 8 full-time employees. We do a lot, and guys, can you stand? I always say that we multitask, we wear many hats, so I appreciate you guys always. And I'd like to recognize the interns that are here with us this evening. They're interning this semester from UTRGV. Michelle is here. Alex is somewhere. Is Alex around? Oh, okay. Okay, Lenore is also here. She's at this table. So, welcome them. So I'm going to pass it over to Aubrey Nielsen. She's going to tell you about the exhibit. And also we have an invited guest tonight, Don, who's here from Corpus Christi. So I'd like to have him come up. Thank you.
I am really bad at public speaking, guys, so I'm going to do my best here. Can you hear me okay in the back?
No, I haven't hear you here.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. So as Sarah mentioned, my name is Aubrey Nielsen and I am the Collections Manager with the Brownsville Historical Association. I have been with the association for 5 years this week, so I am really excited about this exhibit. In 2018, I discovered this exhibit, and there's a really big connection to Brownsville. If you've already gone through it, you will see that aside from all of the various aspects of water that we have, there are cultural elements to it that relate to our culture. There are spiritual elements, economic with the port. So we have 5 different bodies of water in Brownsville that represent the importance of water here. The Resaca is being one of them that is really significant to our area. And with that, it was my idea to kind of bring this here to Brownsville. Unfortunately, at the time, it wasn't traveling. So there was a little disconnect, which is why now we are in 2021, and we finally will be able to bring it here. And aside from, that, I'm going to pass it over to Don Zuras, who is the Curator Emeritus for the Corpus Christi Museum of Natural History and Science, and he's going to tell you a little bit about MOM's program and the Smithsonian's connection to this exhibit. So, Don?
I used to be a teacher, so I think I can throw my voice back into to an auditorium filled with hundreds of students. The Museum on Main Street program, or MOMS, began in 1992. The mission of MOMS is to present Smithsonian quality exhibits using the collections and resources of the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. to smaller communities, to present to them exhibits that are timely and are of a thought-provoking subject, and certainly water is one of those. And you can just imagine that the Smithsonian provides exhibits to institutions that may not be able to have the resources to put on a traveling or an exhibit of the quality of the Smithsonian exhibits. The people of the communities may not have the resources to go to the museum, to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. And you can imagine the fever, the excitement, when all of a sudden the media says, the Smithsonian is coming to Brownsville. Wow, isn't that great? So we appreciate, I want to thank the board of the Brownsville Historical Association, the staff, the supporters of the museum for bringing waterways to Brownsville. It is a timely exhibit, it is a thought-provoking exhibit, and it is an exhibit that affects each and every one of us, because every organism on this planet depends on water. Thank you very much.
So there's Don for you. And just a side note, we also want to thank the University of Texas at El Paso and the Centennial Museum. The exhibit is normally sponsored by a State Humanities Art Council. Unfortunately, Texas was not sponsored by our Humanities Council, so UTEP stepped in and was able to bring it, which is why it took so long for us to have it in Texas. Like you've seen in the video, we are one of 6 cities in the state of Texas to host it. After our city, it will be traveling to Midland, Odessa. They have a really interesting history with water. They transport water between the cities. So that's a nice story. And then it'll end up in El Paso finally after that. So we really appreciate them and all of our sponsors for being able to allow us, this exhibit here in Brownsville. Aside from that, I did want to tell you guys about our programming. We have developed, when you guys walk out or in the front table, you guys will see a little flyer like this, or you may already have it. On the back side, we developed associated programming that talks about the various aspects of water in Brownsville and its connections, from the port to resacas to painting watercolors and different things. So we wanted to build a variety of audience attractions from different age groups. Normally history museums are considered, for the older crowd, but we have a lot of different activities here for anybody. And without our sponsorships, we wouldn't be able to provide a lot of our free programming. So again, we really thank you guys for coming in. And a really exciting thing that we did develop on the way out as well, you guys will see a little paper that looks like this. This is our passport program. On the reverse side, when you attend some of our exhibits, or not the exhibit itself, but other programmings, we will stamp it, and you will get entered into a chance to win the tour of the port on the boat. So that's kind of how we're doing that. So if you would like to visit any of our other programs, just make sure you check out the card, and if you have any questions, let any one of us know. I'm going to read really briefly. Sea Turtle Inc. is here this evening for our connection to our local connection aside from our art, and talk about Miss Wendy Knight, who is from Sea Turtle Inc. In 2020, she joined Sea Turtle Inc., bringing 25 years of corporate experience as an executive in the insurance and financial service market, specializing in acquisition, sales, revenue building, marketing, and operational execution. As a former Chief Operating Officer and Vice President, Wendy brings a new level of depth and structure to the organization, as well as they prepare for the next phase of growth and advancement of the mission at Sea Turtle Inc. So I present to you Ms. Wendy Knight.
All right, is that loud enough? Good, good. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Wendy Knight. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Sea Turtle Inc. We could not be happier. As you know, we have a vested interest in the health of our oceans and being good ocean stewards, so we could not be happier to be here to help you welcome in this beautiful exhibit. So hopefully you know who Sea Turtle Inc. is, but just in case, we are located on South Padre Island. We are a nonprofit and have been there for 44 years. So over the last 44 years, we have been teaching the lessons of conservation, education, and working to protect and rescue the endangered sea turtles. So if you have not been and visited us, I would encourage you to do so. You may have heard recently that we spearheaded the single largest cold stun in recorded history. And just a few miles from here, rescued and rehabilitated more than 5,500 sea turtles in 8 days. So it's been, thank you. It's been a long year already. So on the upside, I have the intense pleasure today of introducing you to your speaker for the evening, Dr. Amy Bonka. So Dr. Bonka, to give you a little bit of information, joined us at Sea Turtle Inc. this last year in a newly created position as the Chief Conservation Officer. So something we're doing as an organization is really going deeper and wider in how we are executing on our three-tiered mission of education, conservation, and rehabilitation. And Dr. Bonka is a great example of the next phase of that work. Dr. Bonka earned her bachelor degree of science in biology with a concentration in, of course, marine biology. She then went on to achieve her master's degree and her PhD in biology at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. We brought her to Texas despite that. I think you'll find why. Her conservation in biology, and specifically her research and study around sea turtles, separates out Dr. Bonka as one of a very few handful of scientists in the world that have the pedigree that she has. So we are very blessed to have her with us at Sea Turtle Inc. I think you'll enjoy her conversation and discussion with you tonight. And with that, I welcome Dr. Amy Bonka.
Well, thank you, Wendy, and thank you for having me here tonight. As Wendy mentioned, my specialty is in sea turtles. Specifically, it's in the Kemp's Ridley, which is our state sea turtle. And so tonight, I'm going to briefly talk about the Kemp's Ridley as well as sea turtles as a whole and their relationship to water and what we are doing with them and with conservation. And so it should come as no surprise that sea turtles and water go hand in hand. The name is right there in their name. And so our sea turtles, for them, water is really critical to all stages of their life. And we're going to see that our sea turtles, as you may guess, spend the majority of their life actually inside that ocean, out in the waters. And aside from the time where they're emerging from the nest and they're crawling down the beach, male sea turtles are never going to come back out of that water unless they're sick or they're injured. Our females, however, will come out occasionally, and they're going to come out to nest. And so we'll see our females coming ashore to nest. And in the case of our Kemp's Ridley, we're going to see that they come ashore about 3 times a year, spend about an hour or so on the beach completing their nesting process, and that's it. The rest of the time they're spending out in that ocean. So our Kemp's Ridleys are going to live to be about 80 years old or so. They're going to start nesting around 12 to 15 years of age. And if we do some quick math, that basically means that in the entirety of their lives, they're only going to spend about 5 whole days out of the ocean. So we know that water is really critical to their life. Water is also critical to several of their other behaviors, and we see that water is really important as well when it comes to the physiology of our sea turtles. Our sea turtles are pretty big. Everything from the smallest sea turtle all the way up to our largest sea turtle is still going to be at least 100 pounds or so. So our smallest sea turtle is on the left here. That's the Kemp's Ridley, about 100 pounds as an adult, all the way up to over 1,000 pounds for our leatherback, which is one on the right-hand side. That's our largest species of sea turtle. And as you can imagine, that's a lot of mass, right? We're looking at 100 to over 1,000 pounds. And for a size reference, that's actually me in both of those pictures. The Kemp's Ridley, that's their nesting beach in Rancho Nuevo, one of my research locations. And then the leatherback was nesting in Indonesia, which is one of the last remaining strongholds of nesting for leatherbacks in the Western Pacific. And so that's, as you can imagine, a pretty big turtle. And water is actually going to help out with that because it's going to help buoy them up. There's a lot of mass, and that helps them as they're swimming around and moving around and spending, like I said, their lives in that water. So water is really critical to them. However, we see that water can also be detrimental in some ways to our sea turtles, even though they need it so much. And we saw that, as Wendy mentioned, this past February when we had that very large, cold, stunning event. So during that event, we had, as she mentioned, over 5,500 sea turtles come into our facility in 8 days. At Sea Turtle Inc., we actually ended up filling our facility, our usable space, in less than 3 days. We had sea turtles in the bathroom, as you can see here on the left. We had sea turtles in the gift shop. We had sea turtles in offices. We had sea turtles on every space that we could put a sea turtle. However, a portion of our facility, our older clinic space, is completely open air, which means when we're having freezing temperatures, we can't put any turtles in those spaces. And so we maxed out our capacity in less than 3 days. And we actually have changed the plans for the new clinic that we're working on building to enclose the entirety of that so that we can greatly increase the amount of space that we can use if we have another really large event like this. So because our facility filled in 3 days and we still have all these turtles coming into us, we then proceeded to take in turtles at the convention center. So the convention center on South Padre Island opened up its doors to us. And we ended up taking even more turtles in. You can see here we had turtles filling the center area of that convention center. We had turtles down the halls. We had turtles everywhere we could put turtles. And in fact, of those over 5,500 turtles that came in, over 4,000 of them came in a 48-hour period. And that was thanks, in part, to the large efforts of this community, of everyone stepping up and helping bring in turtles from Boca Chica, from all around South Padre, from Port Isabel, from everywhere, bringing them into us to get them out of those freezing temperatures. So we saw that water can harm our turtles in that way. They were cold stunned because our water dropped below 40 degrees. And when it drops really quickly and we're in the shallow Laguna Madre system, that water dropping so quickly will then cold stun them. And that means that they can't move. So they can't move their flippers, they can't even at some points lift their head to breathe, and they have to breathe air to survive because they're reptiles. And so with that, we had that mass help of the community to bring them into us so we could get them out of the cold, warm them back up, and then hopefully get them back out into the wild. And to take them out back to the wild, we actually had to take them almost 30 miles offshore because again, water's a part of this. And we had to get to a point where that water was at least 60 degrees because we need warmer waters to release them into so they don't just cold stun all over again and we have to bring them all back in. And so to do that, we utilized an oil spill response vehicle actually. It was the Southern Responder, and it was this very large ship that responds to oil spills, and it has 3 decks. We were able to fill all 3 decks with turtles, so again, turtles everywhere we could put turtles. We ended up doing that twice. It was a very long process, but we were able to get them back out. And they were very excited to get back to their watery home. So not only is water critical to the survival of our sea turtles, not only can it potentially be detrimental, but also our impacts with water and the way that we're utilizing our waterways can impact our sea turtles as well. And what you see up here is one of our patients. His name is Wolverine, and Wolverine came to us back in January of this year. Wolverine came in covered in algae, emaciated, and had what looked like maybe a wound of some kind, but we couldn't tell with all the algae. We treated Wolverine, we were able to clean Wolverine up, and then we saw what you see on the left over here, which is Wolverine came into us because Wolverine had been struck by a boat. The lines that you see are caused by propeller marks that hit the turtle as it was in the water and damaged the shell. So Wolverine's been with us since January. We're going on 9 months now, is still with us, is healing well. Wolverine has undergone surgeries as well as daily treatments, and his prognosis is looking very well, so hopefully soon we'll be able to get Wolverine back out into the water, back into his watery home. And this helps remind us that when we're utilizing our waterways, it's important to think about our turtles as well and how other creatures are utilizing our water spaces and utilizing those waterways as well. So we've talked about how water is affecting our sea turtles, how water is critical to their survival, how sometimes when we interact with our waterways, we are also interacting with our sea turtles and keeping them in mind as well. And we've noticed that in the past several years that plastics and pollution and trash and things like that have become more prevalent and more prevalent in our waterways as well. And we see that on our nesting beaches too. We see plastics and trash washing up on our nesting beaches. We see it on Boca, we see it on South Padre when we're doing our patrols. And what you might notice with this picture here, we have one of our Kents nesting, and in the background behind her, right up here, all of that is some plastic trash that's also washed in. It's become pretty commonplace to see plastics around our sea turtles when they're nesting. I've seen it on the nesting beaches in Mexico. I've seen it on the really remote nesting beaches in Indonesia. It takes 6-hour truck ride, about a 2-hour boat ride to get to it, so pretty remote out there. And we're still seeing this plastics washing up on those beaches and affecting those nesting turtles. So what you see here is another one of our nesting females, and in this case, you can see right up there all these plastic bottles around her, and you can see there's even one really close to her head while she's nesting. And in the far picture, we have a turtle that's returning to the water after she's nested, and she's crawling over some trash and some plastics as well as she goes. And then the center one that we have here, this is actually a collection of pieces of plastics and trash that one of our ambassadors has collected while he's been out on Boca and out on South Padre, so our local beach systems. He's picked up all these different pieces, and when you look at these, you might think, oh, it's just some trash. But if you look closely, you notice that there's these little diamond-shaped pieces missing out of each of those pieces of plastic, and that's a turtle bite. So that's where a turtle has interacted with these pieces of plastic. And in fact, unfortunately today, we conducted a necropsy on one of our turtles, and we saw that there were multiple pieces of plastic inside the digestive system of that turtle, including a piece of the label from a water bottle. So we're still seeing this interacting with our turtles a lot. So where do we go from here? What's next, right? We see our water usage and interacting with that affecting our sea turtles. We see plastics affecting our sea turtles. We see boat strikes. How do we become better ocean stewards? And how do we help enhance the conservation of our sea turtles? I think there's a lot of ways that we can do this, and I think one of those ways is by being here tonight with us. Everyone's coming out here tonight. You've had a chance to check out the exhibit, look through it, and I really encourage you when you leave tonight to think about that exhibit and think about your interactions with water and how your interactions with the waterways can help improve our conservation of our sea turtles. I think we can all take steps, not only to think about how we're interacting with things, but we can also do some small tangible things every day, like bringing reusable water bottles so that we don't have that plastic waste going back into the water and affecting our turtles and our waterways as well. We can also bring reusable grocery bags. Take those with us when we're going shopping. Now I know sometimes it's hard, and I know sometimes we forget, right? I'm the Chief Conservation Officer, as Wendy mentioned. One of my jobs is to help grow and enhance our research, our rehabilitation, and our conservation efforts. And I also still forget my grocery bags sometimes, and I still forget my reusable water bottles. But when I do, I just try again. I put them back in the back car when I get back from grocery shopping. I try to reuse or recycle my plastic bags if I do get them, and I just keep trying. And so I encourage all of us tonight to just keep trying, to enjoy this exhibit, think about how we're interacting with water, interacting with our waterways, and how we can all leave here to become better ocean stewards. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Very interesting. So I'd like to invite you all, if you haven't had a chance to look at the exhibit, to go through it this evening. Take your time, have a drink. You're the first ones to see it. So, and then I'd like to also encourage you to tell your children, your grandchildren, teachers, students that we're open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4. This building is open as a museum as long as the exhibit is here. So thank you so much for coming, and enjoy.
A special thanks to our waterways sponsors: HEB, Brownsville Convention and Visitors Bureau, Brownsville Public Utilities Board, the Port of Brownsville, Wells Fargo Advisors, Rudy De La Garza, Frost Bank, L&F Distributors, Dick's Industries, McNair & Company, Bingo, Brisky and Pettis Insurance, Dr. Anthony Knopp, Via Dental Center, Tip of Texas Insurance, Plitt Crane and Equipment, Inc., United Healthcare, and Texas Regional Bank.